The billionaire's cruel prophecy and the baker's sweet revenge. The final act of cruelty. He nudged the final cardboard box, labeled kitchen clutter, toward the door with the toe of his designer shoe. "Let's be real, Lena," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "You're 38. You have no career. You have absolutely nothing." Graham Gray Sterling, a high-powered executive at a prestigious real estate consultancy in London, leaned against the cold marble countertop of the kitchen he was keeping. "I'm giving you a generous settlement, but we both know it won't last. You'll never find anyone better than me. You'll be lucky to find anyone at all." She, Lena Hayes, stood by the door, clutching her purse. Her reflection was distorted in the polished steel of the high-end refrigerator. Gray's words were meant to be a final curse, the seal of his superiority. But he was wrong. He couldn't know that his final cruel words were not an ending, but a prophecy, and that his ex-wife's vindication would not just be silent. It would be broadcast live to millions. The air in the minimalist million-pound flat in Mayfair was thick with the scent of fresh, Arctic gray paint and betrayal. Gray hadn't waited for the ink to dry on the divorce papers before redecorating everything. "The movers took your last few things," Gray said, not looking up from his phone. He was texting, a small, smug smile playing on his lips. Lena knew exactly who was on the other end. Chloe, the 24-year-old legal assistant at his firm, whom he had been mentoring for the past year. "I know, Gray. I was just taking one last look," Lena murmured, her voice raw. He finally looked up. His eyes lacked warmth. They were the eyes of a businessman closing a deal. "One last look at what? This isn't your life anymore, Elena. It's time you accepted it." 15 years, Gray. I supported you when you were just an intern. I put my own career on hold to build this life with you." Her voice cracked, a sound she despised. She had promised herself not to cry. Gray sighed, an impatient, exaggerated sound. He ran a hand through his perfectly coiffed hair. "Here we go. The I sacrificed everything speech. Let's be clear. You put your degree in art history on hold because you lacked the ambition to finish it. I built this. I made the money. You just spent it. And frankly, you weren't even good at that." The cruelty was so casual, so rehearsed. "It came from boredom, Lena," he said, stepping closer. "I'm a shark, Lena. I need to keep moving forward. You were a drag. Comfortable, but heavy. I'm moving up. I'm aiming for partnership. Chloe understands that. She's hungry. You just want to bake." His disdain for her passion was a familiar knife. He had always called her baking a hobby. "So that's it." Lena straightened her back, slinging the strap of her worn leather purse over her shoulder. He nudged the final box toward the door with his $800 leather loafer. It was filled with her favorite whisks, her grandmother's old recipe book, and her stained apron. "Be realistic, Lena," he repeated condescendingly. "You're 30, you have no career, you have nothing. It's not a generous settlement, Gray. It's half of what you owe me. Your lawyers buried mine in paperwork. That's how the game is played, darling. And you're not a player. You're an amateur. And the world is run by professionals." He paused, looking her up and down. "Just telling you, don't come crying in 6 months when you've blown the cash and you're waiting tables, because I won't help you. I will never ask you for anything, Gray, ever again." "Good." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You'll never find anyone better than me. You'll be lucky to find anyone at all. I was the best thing that ever happened to you." Lena looked at him. A cold flame of rage ignited in her chest. She simply picked up the kitchen clutter box, turned, and walked out of the flat. She didn't look back as the heavy oak door closed, sealing 15 years of her life. The whisk of hope. The new beginning. On the street, illegally parked, a gleaming metallic blue Maserati Levante waited. Chloe was inside, sunglasses on, typing impatiently on her phone. She shot Lena a look of triumphant contempt. Lena held her gaze and then walked past, her knuckles white as she gripped the box. Her new life awaited her, a tiny one-bedroom flat in a modest South London neighborhood, smelling of old carpet and the neighbor's curry. A world away from Gray's cold luxury. That night, Lena didn't unpack. She sat on the floor of her empty living room. She opened the kitchen clutter box. She pulled out her grandmother's cracked, vanilla-stained recipe book. She cried for the man she loved, for the baby she lost years ago, for the wasted years. She cried until she felt hollow. And then, near 2 a.m., she stood up. She went into the small, antiquated kitchen and opened the book to the marked page. Grandma Maeve's lemon tart. She found the flour and sugar she had bought on the way. In the silence of her new life, with Gray's curse ringing in her ears, "You'll never find anyone better." Lena Vidal began to bake. The clean, acidic aroma of fresh lemons began to fill the room. The first good smell in a very long time. The first 6 months were a mix of powdered sugar and panic. The generous settlement, after paying the deposit and buying an old used Mini Cooper, was terrifyingly small. Gray was right about one thing. It wouldn't last. She applied for jobs. The galleries and museums always gave her the same answer. 15 years is a long gap, Ms. Hayes. We're looking for someone with more recent digital curation experience. She was a relic. Panic attacks woke her up at 3 a.m. Gray's voice was a constant loop. "You're an amateur! You're nothing!" Her only solace was the kitchen. She baked to stay sane. She gave her creations away to neighbors, the postman, the dry cleaner. It was her best friend, Eliza, a feisty emergency room nurse, who finally shook her out of her stupor. Eliza came over after a 12-hour shift, bit into a lavender chocolate scone, and slammed her hand on the counter. "Lena, this isn't a scone," Eliza declared. "This is a religious experience. It's a work of art, and you are giving it away." "I don't know what else to do with it, Eliza. You sell it. You stop looking for jobs you don't even want. You take that kitchen clutter box and turn it into a business." With Eliza's help, Lena sold the last of her previous life, some diamond studs, a designer bag, and used the money to buy a tent, a folding table, a license, and wholesale ingredients. She called her fledgling business the Mixing Bowl. Would you do the same as Lena, risking your last savings on a passion your ex-husband despised? Vote with a comment. Mr. Just Allen, the most important customer. The first day at the upscale borough market was a disaster. It was a cold, rainy Saturday in May. Her tent almost blew away. People rushed past to established stalls. She had baked 300 pounds worth of pastries. By 11 a.m., she had only sold one muffin to a child. She was packing up early, tears of humiliation stinging her eyes, when a man stopped at her stall. He was tall, dressed in a simple jacket and jeans. He had kind, tired eyes and a few days' growth of beard. He looked as weary as she felt. "Are you closing up?" he asked, his voice quiet and gentle. "Looks like it," Lena said, trying to sound cheerful. "Not a great day for lemon tarts." He looked at the small, perfect tarts. "That's a shame. They look like the best here." "They are the only ones here," she said, with a watery laugh. He smiled. "My wife loved lemon tarts. I haven't had a good one in a long time." Loved hung in the air. Lena understood the loss. "Take one, on the house," she said. "No, I couldn't. Please, otherwise I'm going to have to eat them all myself in my car." He laughed, a warm, pleasant sound. He pulled out his wallet. "I'll take 4, and I'm paying for all of them." He paid with a crisp £100 note and told her to keep the change. I don't have change for this," she stammered. "Then I suppose I'll have to come back next week to collect my change in pastries," he said. "Thank you. They smell like hope." He was gone before she could say anything more. His name was Alan. He came back the next week. and the next. He became her first regular customer. He never talked about his job. He talked about books, the weather, her baking. He was just Alan, a kind, quiet man who liked her pastries. Lena's business grew, slowly and painfully. She wasn't getting rich, but she was paying the rent. Then, one sunny Saturday in July, the past rolled up to her stall. Gray and Chloe. Lena's stomach dropped. Gray wore a pristine polo shirt and expensive sunglasses. Chloe, clinging to his arm, looked like a living Instagram filter. "Well, well, well," Gray said, his voice loud enough for other customers to hear. He surveyed her tent, her handwritten sign, her simple pastries. A little bake sale. How quaint. "Hello, Gray." Lena squeezed her hands at the edge of her table. "I'm almost impressed," he continued, gesturing to her lemon tarts. "You finally found a way to make money off your hobby. How much do you clear a day? 50 quid? 100? Chloe snickered. "It's cute, Gray, like a little girl's lemonade stand." "So this is what you're doing," Gray said, his voice dropping to a tone of false pity. "This is the big new life, selling biscuits from a tent." "I told you, Lena. I told you this is where you'd end up." Lena's face burned. "I'm working, Gray," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "I'm supporting myself. Please, if you're not buying anything, I have other customers." Gray laughed. "Buying anything, darling? I can buy a real patisserie. I don't need this." He waved a dismissive hand. "It's just sad. I almost pity you." "Don't," Lena said, her rage finally eclipsing her shame. "Don't you dare pity me. You have no right." Gray tossed a crumpled 20 note onto a tray of scones. "There, for old time's sake. Buy yourself a new apron or something." He turned and walked away, laughing with Chloe, getting into his metallic blue Maserati Levante. Lena stood staring at the crumpled note on her pastries. The same old cold shame washed over her. You'll never find anyone better. She didn't see Alan, standing at the edge of the tent, holding his usual bag, having witnessed the entire ugly exchange. His kind eyes were now cold and fixed on the back of Gray, who was disappearing into the traffic. Alan stepped up to the table. Lena was trying to discreetly dispose of the scone the money had touched. "Don't throw it away," Alan said softly. "Alan, I'm sorry you saw that. He's your ex-husband," Alan stated. Lena nodded, her throat tight. "He's unpleasant. That's one word," Alan said. Alan nudged the 20s note back to her. "Take this. I don't want it. Put it in the till. It's the price of admission for the show he just put on. Don't let him think it affected you." Then he pulled out his own wallet. "And I'll take my usual 4 lemon tarts and a dozen of those scones," he insulted. Lena looked at him, gratitude flooding her. "You don't have to do that." "I know," he said, handing her the money. "But I want to. That man, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Your work is incredible, Lena. And so are you, see ya." The tech king and the TV set. Invitation. Her friendship with Alan deepened. He was no longer just a customer. He was a friend. She learned about his late wife, who had passed 2 years prior. He, in turn, learned about Gray. Not the details of the abuse, but the ghost of it. "He defined you," Alan said one autumn afternoon. "And now you're defining yourself. It's the hardest, best work a person can do." One Tuesday, Lena was elbows deep in flour, testing a new pumpkin chai recipe, when her phone buzzed. An email. The subject line read, "Media Inquiry, The Morning Show, Channel 4. Her heart pounded. The morning show was the #1 daytime program in the country. "Dear Ms. Hayes," the email read, signed by Carla Davies, the producer. "We are running a new segment called Local Focus, centered on entrepreneurs who started from scratch and are making a difference. Your name was recommended to us as an inspiring local success story. We would love to feature you and the Mixing Bowl live in our studio next Friday, October 20th, during the 8 a.m. hour. Lena was terrified. Live TV? What if she failed? What if Gray saw her? The very thought of him watching made her want to refuse. He would mock her. He would find a way to destroy her. She told Alan about it at the market that Saturday. "You have to do it, Lena." "But Alan, I'm a baker. I'm not a story. And I'll be terrible." He placed his hands on her shoulders, his gaze steady. "Look at me, Lena. Your story is inspiring. You built this from nothing. You took your pain and created something beautiful. People need to see that." "Who recommended me?" Alan smiled mysteriously. "London is small. Word about the best lemon tarts gets around." Lena agreed. Meanwhile, Grace Sterling wasn't having a good month. A major deal he had banked on fell through, and Chloe was getting expensive. He heard about Lena's segment on TV from his mother. Gray's stomach churned. On television, his discarded ex-wife being celebrated. It was an insult. Furious, Gray used his contacts to get the producer's number, Carla Davies. "Ms. Davies, my name is Graham Sterling. I'm Elena Hayes' ex-husband. I'm calling out of concern. Lena, she's not well. She's been through a very difficult crisis. This divorce, it unhinged her. Putting her on live TV is irresponsible. She's fragile. She's unstable. I fear she will have an episode on your set." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Mr. Sterling, thank you for your concern. I have met Ms. Hayes, and I have also, coincidentally, heard a few things about you. Let me be perfectly clear. We are not canceling the segment. In fact, we're extending it. Have a nice day." Carla hung up. Gray hurled his phone against the wall. He would watch the show. He would watch her crash and burn, proving he was right. The live TV drama. The proposal. On the day of the broadcast, Lena woke up at 3 a.m. from nerves. Her mind was blank. All she could hear was Gray's voice. "You're an amateur. You're nothing." At 5 a.m. she got a text from Alan. "Lena, I'm outside, bringing coffee." He was there, leaning against a gleaming black Rolls-Royce Ghost, which looked far more luxurious than she had ever noticed. "I can't do this, Alan," she said, breaking down in tears on the pavement. "I'm terrified." "Yes, you can," he said, firm. "You're scared. That's normal. But you're also the woman who built a business from scratch while her entire life fell apart. You're the strongest person I know." "What am I supposed to say?" "Tell them the truth. The part about your grandmother, the part about the lemon and the cardamom. Tell them your story. Not the part about him, but the part about you." "I have a big meeting this morning, but I'll be watching. I promise." He drove her to the studio. The atmosphere was chaotic. A few minutes after Lena entered the green room, another man was escorted in. He was older, in an impeccably tailored navy suit, carrying a sleek leather briefcase. He looked powerful. He sat on the far side of the room. A lawyer or a politician, Lena thought. At 8:15 a.m., the host, Jemima Blackwood, welcomed her to the set. The lights were blinding. Lena looked at the camera. She pictured Gray waiting for her to fail. Then she pictured Alan. "Tell them your story." "The mixing bowl," Lena began, her voice barely trembling, "started about a year ago. I was going through a very difficult transition. I had lost a lot, and I found myself in a new flat with only my grandmother's old recipe book. And I just started baking. I baked because it was the only thing that made sense. And I suppose I baked my way back to life." In his office, Gray leaned in. "Here comes the nervous breakdown." Lena was natural, vulnerable, and strong. She wasn't just not failing. She was shining. "Lena, this is the best lemon tart I've ever had," Jemima Blackwood exclaimed. "Thank you. It's an old family recipe. And we are so inspired by your story, a true second act." In the green room, the man in the suit was watching the monitor, smiling widely. Lena, Jemima Blackwood said, we hear you have one particular customer who is a huge admirer, a very loyal customer who comes to your stall every week. Lena blanked. Me? I have several regulars. Yes, but this one. In fact, he's the one who suggested you for this segment. He called our producer, Carla, personally. You know him as Alan. But Alan, well, he's a little more than just an admirer. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Alan Sterling. Lena's blood ran cold. What? The man from the green room, the powerful man in the suit, walked onto the set and shook Jemima's hand. In his office, Gray froze. His coffee mug slipped from his hand and shattered on his desk. No, Gray whispered. No, that can't be Alan Sterling. Chloe, daughter of a stockbroker, knew exactly who it was. My God, she breathed. That's Alan Sterling, CEO of Sterling Global Tech. He's a billionaire, Gray. The most eligible bachelor in the country. And he's buying scones from her. On screen, Alan Sterling walked straight to a completely shocked Lena. He took her hands. You're doing amazing, Lena, he said in a low voice, just for her. Alan, she whispered, her mind unable to process. Sterling Global Tech? You said you had a meeting. I did, he said, turning to the host, but still holding Lena's hand. With your producer, Carla, and then with my legal team. Mr. Sterling, what is going on? The host stammered, visibly rattled. I'm not just an admirer of the show, Jemima. I'm an admirer of Lena, Alan said, his voice quiet and authoritative. I called Carla. I told her if she was looking for a story about resilience, about talent, she had to meet Lena. Then he looked at the main camera, the one broadcasting to all of London. Gray tensed. I'm here, Alan said, his voice dropping. Because I have a story too, and I'm annoyed by his. Jemima, Lena's ex-husband is a real estate executive at a major firm, a man named Graham Sterling. The name dropped like thunder. In the control room, Carla Davies' jaw dropped. In his office, Gray lunged to his feet. He named me! This man, Alan continued, his voice resonating with cold, contained fury. Not only divorced Lena, he tried to destroy her. He told her she was nothing, that she was an amateur, that she was unstable. In fact, he called this network yesterday. He tried to get them to cancel this segment. Gray sank into his chair. He was pale. His phones began ringing. And, Alan's voice soared with emotion. He told her one more thing. He looked her in the eye and said, You'll never find anyone better than me. He was wrong, Alan said, turning fully to Lena. The world shrank. It was just the two of them under the hot lights. You are not nothing, Lena. You are my everything. You are the strongest, kindest, most brilliant, and most resilient woman I have ever met. Alan, she gasped, tears streaming down her face. He told you you'd never find anyone better. Alan took a shaky breath. And I am not him. But I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be better, trying to be the man you deserve. To the astonishment of the entire city, the technology billionaire, Alan Sterling, knelt on the set of the morning show. He pulled out a small velvet box. Lena, he said, his voice breaking. You saved me. You baked your way back to life. And in the process, you saved mine. You taught me how to live again. I don't want to buy your lemon tarts only on Saturdays. I want to wake up to them, and to you, every morning for the rest of my life. He opened the box. The ring. A massive cushion-cut Cartier diamond, flanked by 2 sapphires. It was worth more than Gray's flat, his Maserati, and his year's commission combined. Elena Hayes, Alan said, with utter sincerity. You are my second act. You are my only act. Will you marry me? The studio was dead silent. Lena smiled, tears streaming down her face. Yes, she whispered. Yes, she said louder. Yes, Alan, 1,000 times yes. Alan stood up, slipped the enormous diamond onto her finger. It fit perfectly, and kissed her. It wasn't a TV kiss. It was a real, passionate, promise-filled kiss, live on national television. Was Alan's revenge too public, or did Gray deserve to be unmasked on national television? Let us know your opinion in the comments. The sweetest second act, a meaningful ending. The broadcast cut to commercial. On the set, Lena was trembling. In Gray's office, his and Chloe's phones were ringing off the hook. He looked at the caller ID, the managing partner, the head of HR. "He's ruined me," Gray whispered. "He hasn't just ruined you, Gray," Chloe said, grabbing her bag and backing away toward the door. "He's annihilated you. You're a joke, Gray. You're the guy who let the fiancé of a billionaire get away because you were busy with me." She walked out and blocked him. Gray's firm's managing partner called him to his office at 10 a.m. The meeting was brief. "Mr. Sterling named us on national television. Our clients. We have a morality clause, Gray. You're fired. Effective immediately." He was escorted out, carrying his belongings in a box, a bitter echo of the one he had nudged toward Lena. Back on the show, before the segment ended, Alan addressed the camera. His lawyer handed him a folder. "Mr. Sterling," Alan said, his voice cold as steel, "you'll be hearing from my legal team. But that's not all." He held up a check. "This is a check for £1 million. It is not for Mr. Sterling. It is for the Second Act Fund, a new foundation I am creating in Lena's name, to provide seed capital to women like her who are rebuilding their lives and starting businesses after divorce or loss." Lena, her name next to a staggering string of zeros, simply sobbed. A final wave of purifying emotion. The vengeance was complete. His ex-wife had not just found someone better, she had found a king, and he had just publicly declared war on the jester who had hurt her. To escape the media storm, which turned the Second Act Fund into a viral sensation with millions in donations, Alan took Lena to his private villa on Lake Como. There, they planned. Lena was adamant. She would not stop baking. The mixing bowl was her identity. They decided to expand it, not as a soulless franchise, but as a beautiful flagship patisserie in London, which would serve as a training center for the Second Act Fund, employing women who were rebuilding their own lives. Gray sold his car, lost the flat, and fled the city. The last news was that he had changed his name and was working as a used car salesman, a great guy that no one believed. 1 year after the proposal, the morning show aired a follow-up from the bustling, successful The Mixing Bowl. "You've built an empire of hope," said the host, Jemima. Lena, her diamond sparkling, laughed. "The ring is nice, but," she pointed to a single mother, now her head baker, laughing as she decorated a cake. "That is the real story." Alan joined them and kissed his wife. "I'm the lucky one," he told the camera. "I got the girl and a lifetime supply of the world's best lemon tarts." Lena's story proved that the end of one chapter is never truly the end. It is the start of a second act. She went from being told she was nothing to becoming the head of a foundation changing hundreds of lives. She lost a man who saw her as an amateur and gained a man who saw her as his entire world. If you loved this story of justice and second chances, please give this video a like. Share it with someone who needs to hear that their best days are still ahead, and be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that bell. You won't want to miss the next story we have for you. Chapter 5. Baking an Heirloom. The Unexpected Recipe. Welcome back to Narratives and Memories. If you're rooting for Lena and Alan's happy ending, smash that like button and let us know. What do you think is the biggest secret ingredient to Lena's success? The £1 Million Sanctuary. 2 years after the spectacular TV proposal and the launch of the Second Act Fund, Lena Sterling, née Hayes, and Alan Sterling had settled into a life that was both relentlessly busy and profoundly fulfilling. Their home, a stunning yet practical, modern house in the peaceful countryside just outside of London, was their sanctuary. It featured a massive professional-grade kitchen, a testament to the source of their empire, and a dedicated wing for the foundation's administrative work. The mixing bowl was no longer just a London sensation. It had secured international partnerships, and its ethos of providing second chances through employment was a Harvard Business School case study. Lena, however, felt a persistent tug. She had built her career, her vengeance, her pride, on the fact that she was a survivor. She had poured every ounce of her being into her work, partly because, years ago, she and Gray had suffered a devastating loss, a pregnancy that ended tragically, leaving a scar on her heart and an unspoken anxiety about trying again. Alan, who had lost his first wife, understood grief and the delicate balance of hope. They had talked about starting a family, but the demands of the rapidly expanding foundation and the memory of past pain always pushed the decision further down the road. The billion-pound dilemma. The new challenge arrived, not in the form of a villain, but an opportunity. A massive, unsolicited investment offer from a Saudi conglomerate wanting to franchise the mixing bowl globally. The deal was worth over £500 million and would instantly make Lena one of the wealthiest female entrepreneurs in the world. Lena and Alan were reviewing the daunting contract late one evening in their kitchen. "This is it, Lena," Alan said, his eyes shining with pride. "This is the ultimate validation. You would go from a local hero to a global mogul overnight. You've earned this." Lena, usually decisive, was hesitant. She traced the lines of her grandmother's old recipe book, now a treasured artifact. "It means losing control, Alan. They want to standardize the recipes, minimize the training for the fund, and focus purely on profit margins." "We can negotiate," Alan insisted. "We can protect the spirit. Think of the reach, Lena. The fund could operate in dozens of countries." "Or," Lena whispered, placing her hand over her abdomen, "it means delaying the other legacy I want to build, the one that's just mine and yours." Alan immediately stopped talking business. He knelt beside her chair. "Lena, the greatest legacy is the one you already have. You saved hundreds of women, and if you want a family, we do it tomorrow. That contract can wait." What should Lena prioritize? Global domination to maximize the foundation's reach, or scaling back to focus on starting a family? Put in the comments the recipe for the future. Lena took a week off, unplugging completely. She went back to her roots, a small, simple kitchen, just her and the old recipe book. She didn't bake for profit. She baked for herself. One afternoon, while mixing batter, she was hit by a wave of dizziness, not from work stress, but from something entirely new. A trip to the doctor confirmed what she both desperately feared and hoped for. She was pregnant. The joy was immediately overshadowed by a wave of anxiety, a raw, protective fear she hadn't felt since her first loss. She wanted to tell Alan, but she needed to process it first. She decided to tell him in her own unique way. That evening, she dressed up, lit candles, and prepared a meal that was a silent confession. The centerpiece was a brand new dessert she had created, a delicate lemon cake, not with the traditional tartness of her second act recipe, but infused with soft, sweet notes of honey and cardamom, a flavor profile Alan often brought up in his quiet reflections about their future. Alan came home, tired from a grueling day of negotiations, but his eyes lit up when he saw the scene. "Wow, what's the occasion, my love? Did we just buy a new country?" he joked, kissing her. "Better," Lena smiled, serving him a slice of the cake. "It's a new recipe, a blend of the old and the new." Alan took a bite, his eyes widening. He recognized the flavor immediately. It was the scent of their private conversations, the sweetness of the future they always imagined. It's incredible, Lena. It's perfect. The cardamom is new, though. What's the name of this? Lena watched him, her heart pounding. I call it the third act, Alan, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Because it needs about 9 more months to finish baking. Alan froze. He looked from the cake to her eyes, slowly realizing the truth. The portfolio he had been carrying slid from his fingers and hit the floor with a soft thud. Tears sprang to his eyes, tears of pure, unadulterated joy. He didn't speak. He just swept her into his arms, holding her tightly, afraid to let go. My love, he finally managed, his voice broken. My beautiful, brave love, you are a miracle. Subscribe to our channel to witness the beautiful unfolding of Lena's new legacy, the unbreakable truth, the final legacy. The news of the pregnancy changed everything, yet nothing at all. The $500 million contract was immediately and politely declined. We are choosing quality over quantity, Alan announced to the media, a statement that baffled the corporate world but delighted their loyal customers. The mixing bowl's true value is its integrity, and that remains non-negotiable. Lena chose to step back from the daily grind, focusing on the future. She continued to manage the second act fund, but Margot, now her COO, took over the business expansion. 9 months later, Lena gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. They named her Maeve, after the grandmother whose recipe book had started everything. The final piece of Lena's journey came on Maeve's first birthday. Lena stood in her kitchen, holding her daughter, looking at the 2 recipes. Grandma Maeve's lemon tart, the second act, and the third act, honey cardamom cake. The original recipe was born from pain, built on proving a cruel man wrong. The new recipe was born from love, built purely on hope and joy. Lena realized her true victory wasn't the billions, the foundations, or the public apology. It was the fact that she had transformed her life so completely that the man who broke her was no longer a factor in her happiness. She had moved past the second act, the response to the past, into the third act, the creation of an entirely new future. She looked at Alan, holding Maeve, his eyes filled with a peace that only unconditional love can bring. I love you, Alan, she whispered. Thank you for showing me that I didn't need a king to rescue me. I just needed a man who could see the queen I already was. Alan smiled. I love you, Lena. Now, are we baking a cake for Maeve, or are we baking a new company? Lena laughed, a sound free of any shadow of the past. Let's bake a third act empire, darling, starting with a tiny, perfect lemon tart for our daughter. The story of Lena Hayes is not about revenge, but about the unparalleled power of choosing self-love over fear. Her legacy is not just the money she made, but the lives she saved and the beautiful family she built on the solid foundation of her own resilient heart. This marks the beautiful conclusion of Lena and Alan's journey. If you believe Lena found the ultimate victory, please share this video and leave a comment telling us what you think the fourth act will be, Chapter 6. The Tech Empire's Shadow. Welcome back to Narratives and Memories. If you believe in putting family first, give this video a like and tell us, should Alan step away from his multi-billion-dollar company for his family's peace? Vote in the comments. The price of power. 2 years had passed since the birth of Maeve, and the Sterling household was a bustling, joyful hub of baby laughter, the comforting hum of professional baking, and the quiet whir of high-stakes corporate communication. While Lena was masterfully balancing the mixing bowl and the second act fund, Alan was facing the most challenging period of his career at Sterling Global Tech. The company was under immense pressure from aggressive competitors and relentless demands from investors to maintain its colossal growth trajectory. Alan, once the calm, reassuring anchor in Lena's life, was becoming increasingly consumed. His sanctuary office was rarely quiet, and he often woke up at 4 a.m. to take urgent calls with his teams in Asia. The joy of holding his daughter, Maeve, was often interrupted by the incessant buzzing of his phone. Lena noticed the change immediately. Alan's tired eyes, his short temper with minor domestic issues, and the visible weight on his shoulders reminded her painfully of the man she had escaped, Grace Sterling, albeit Alan's stress was rooted in responsibility, not malice. One evening, after Maeve had finally fallen asleep, Lena found Alan slumped at the kitchen island, staring blankly at a complex financial report. "Alan," she said gently, placing a hand on his back. "You haven't been home for dinner in 3 nights. You missed Maeve's first word this week. It was tart." Alan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I know, Lena. I'm sorry. But the latest quarter's projections are bad. We're fighting a hostile takeover bid from a rival firm. If they succeed, they'll gut the company. And worse, they'll destroy the ethical labor practices we built into the supply chain. Is that why you look like you haven't slept since Maeve was born? It's the stress, Lena. I can't leave. If I step away now, everything my father built and everything I've tried to make ethically responsible is lost. I am the only one who can hold the line." Lena sat beside him. "Alan, you fought for me on national television. You gave me a second act. But you can't lose yourself and our family to the first act of your own corporate legacy. What is the point of being a king if you live in a cage? What is more valuable? Alan's legacy and ethical control of a massive tech empire, or the stability and presence he needs to give his young family? Tell us your thoughts." The ultimate sacrifice. The situation reached its breaking point a month later. Alan was preparing to fly to Silicon Valley for a critical board meeting. It was Maeve's second birthday party. He had promised to be there for the morning celebration before heading to the airport. But the night before, a major global server crash paralyzed Sterling Global Tech. Alan received a call at midnight. It was catastrophic, potentially costing the company hundreds of millions. Lena walked into the kitchen at 1 a.m. Alan was already packed, pacing, talking intensely on a conference call. He ended the call, his face pale with exhaustion and defeat. "I have to leave now, Lena. I have to be in the server room. I can't miss this meeting. If I don't go, we lose everything." Lena looked at the man she loved, who was on the brink of collapse. She saw the fear in his eyes, the fear of failure, the fear of losing control, the same fear that had consumed her when she was alone. "No, Alan," she said, her voice soft but firm. "You don't. You need to be here tomorrow, for your daughter." "I have to, Lena. This is a multi-billion-dollar company. And what is the value of your soul, Alan? What is the price of Maeve's memory of her father on her second birthday? You taught me that authenticity is worth more than any balance sheet. If you lose yourself now, you'll be giving them exactly what they want. A shark who prioritizes money over his family. Don't let them win." Lena walked over to his perfectly packed briefcase, opened it, and slowly took out his phone. She turned it off. "This is not a suggestion, Alan," she said. "This is a choice. You choose us, or you choose the cage. But if you choose the cage, you choose it alone." Alan stared at the phone in her hand, the quiet power of her resolve hitting him harder than any market crash. For a long, agonizing moment, the fate of his empire hung in the balance. Then, slowly, he walked over to the kitchen cupboard, opened it, and pulled out an apron. One of Lena's old, flour-stained ones. He tied it around his waist. "What are you doing?" Lena whispered, tears filling her eyes. "I'm choosing the only thing that matters," he said, pulling her into a tight hug. "I'm choosing the woman who baked her way back to life, and the daughter who thinks I'm a superhero. Let the investors rage. Let the servers crash. I quit, Lena. I'm choosing my third act with you. Please hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss the fallout of Alan's shocking decision." The birthday and the balance sheet. The next morning, the financial world went into a frenzy. Alan Sterling resigned as CEO of Sterling Global Tech, citing a necessary pivot towards personal and ethical realignment. The stock tumbled, and the hostile takeover bid accelerated. But in the quiet countryside outside London, Maeve Sterling had the best birthday ever. Alan, in his flour-dusted apron, helped Lena bake a magnificent three-tiered third-act cake, honey and cardamom, of course. They spent the day laughing, playing, and existing fully in the present moment. That night, after putting Maeve to bed, Lena found Alan staring out the window. His shoulders relaxed for the first time in years. "Are you worried about the company?" Lena asked softly. Alan shook his head. "No. I'm worried about the future, but not the company. I already lost the company, Lena. But I saved my life, and I saved us." A week later, Alan and Lena, now a unified team, held a joint press conference. Alan announced his immediate retirement from tech leadership, but Lena stepped forward, a powerful statement in her simple tailored dress. "Alan's integrity is now fully dedicated to the Second Act Fund," she announced. "We are leveraging his brilliant mind, not for corporate acquisition, but for social innovation. We are building a tech platform to scale the fund globally, connecting women in need with mentorship, microloans, and job training across 5 continents." The headline wasn't about the crash of Sterling Global Tech. It was about the rise of the Second Act Empire, a merger of baking and billions, purpose and technology. Alan, the billionaire tech king, became the chief innovation officer of a foundation built by his wife, a far more satisfying title than CEO. Together, they proved that their true fortune wasn't in the stock market, but in the purposeful work of saving lives and building an unbreakable family. The story of Lena and Alan shows that the greatest power is the power to walk away from everything society tells you is valuable in favor of the only thing that truly is: home, love, and purpose. What an incredible twist. Alan chose love over his empire. Will Alan truly be happy managing a nonprofit? Or will he miss the thrill of the tech world? How will the Second Act Fund change with Alan's tech mind? Thank you for following this inspiring journey. Leave your final thoughts and subscribe to Narratives and Memories for our next unforgettable story. Chapter 7. The Unstoppable Legacy of Purpose. Welcome to the final beautiful chapter of Lena and Alan's journey. If you believe their decision to choose family over fortune was the right one, hit that like button and share this incredible story. The new fortune. 2 years after Alan Sterling shocked the financial world by trading his CEO title for the Chief Innovation Officer role at the Second Act Fund, the Sterling household was defined by a profound, palpable sense of peace. The high-stress, early-morning calls with Asia were replaced by early-morning coffee with Lena and Maeve. The pressure of billion-dollar stock valuations was replaced by the simple, rewarding challenge of optimizing training programs for women across 5 continents. Alan found a satisfaction in the fund that his tech empire never truly provided. He took his vast knowledge of scale, logistics, and data analytics and applied it to purpose. He developed the Third Act Platform, an AI-driven system that matched women rebuilding their lives with mentors, legal aid, and micro-loan opportunities globally. A technological marvel devoted entirely to human recovery. The mixing bowl, meanwhile, continued its organic, ethical growth. Lena had ensured that every new branch became a beacon of hope and a training ground for the foundation. Her lemon tarts were not just delicious, they were tangible proof that a new life could be built, one perfect ingredient at a time. One sunny afternoon, Lena found Alan in their massive kitchen, not coding, but covered head to toe in flour, attempting to teach Maeve, who was now 4 and utterly fearless, how to roll pie crust. "This," Alan said, looking up at Lena, "is the most complex yet rewarding logistics challenge I've ever faced. The margin for error on a simple lattice top is astronomical." Lena laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "You gave up a multi-billion-dollar company for a 4-year-old and a rolling pin chief innovation officer, and I would do it again every single day," he replied, his eyes filled with the unwavering love that had once surprised the nation. "That tech empire was my father's legacy. This," he gestured to Lena, Maeve, and the flour-dusted counter. "This is our legacy." Do you think Alan truly misses the excitement of the tech world? Or has he found a deeper satisfaction in purpose? Share your insights in the comments. The real legacy, the ultimate validation of their choice, came unexpectedly. Grace Sterling, having failed spectacularly in several attempts to restart his life, eventually faded into obscurity, a cautionary tale mentioned only in financial gossip columns. The cruel prophecy he delivered years ago, "You'll never find anyone better than me," had been pulverized by Lena's success and happiness. But the true measure of their victory wasn't Gray's downfall. It was the foundation. One evening, Lena and Alan attended a quiet, private dinner hosted by the Mayor of London to honor their philanthropic work. Lena was seated next to a formidable woman, Dr. Evelyn Shaw, the Chancellor of the London School of Economics. Dr. Shaw leaned in. "Mrs. Sterling," she said, "I have followed your story and your foundation's work. I believe the Third Act platform is revolutionary. We want to fund a chair of innovation in your name, the Elena Sterling Chair of Purpose-Driven Technology." Lena was stunned. An academic chair at a prestigious university, dedicated not just to philanthropy, but to her philosophy of using technology for human good. "It's fitting," Dr. Shaw continued. "You turned an insult, you have nothing, into a global movement. You showed that purpose is the greatest metric of success." Lena looked across the table at Alan, who smiled, knowing this was the moment she had truly eclipsed the past. "And Alan," Lena said, her voice filled with quiet strength, "I believe the best candidate to lead that chair would be its creator, my husband, Alan Sterling." Alan was visibly touched by her generosity and faith. He was being offered a chance to teach and guide the next generation, blending his technical brilliance with the profound human lessons he learned from Lena. He accepted immediately. What do you think of Lena offering Alan the chance to lead the new chair? Is this a sign of trust, or a way to ensure his intellectual satisfaction? The unbreakable family. Years later, Lena and Alan stood on the hill overlooking their home, watching the sunset. Maeve, now a bright-eyed and ambitious 10-year-old, was inside, excitedly preparing a new third act recipe on her own, small kitchen island. Lena's life was full. She was an acclaimed designer, a successful entrepreneur, a passionate philanthropist, and, most importantly, a loving mother and wife. "Remember that first day at the market, Alan?" Lena asked, leaning into him. "I thought I was a failure because I only sold one muffin." "I remember," Alan chuckled. "And I remember thinking I was finally going to try a good lemon tart after years of sadness." "We both got so much more than a good tart," Lena said softly. "We got a whole new recipe for life." Alan kissed her hair. "You saved me from a different kind of cage, Lena. The one I built myself, thinking that money was the measure of a man. You taught me the true value of life is measured in the flavor of the moment, the quality of the love you give, and the difference you make." The story of Lena and Alan Sterling became the ultimate modern fairy tale. One where the princess rescues herself, finds a king who chooses to be her partner, and together, they build an empire dedicated to helping every woman find her own glorious second act. Thank you for following Lena and Alan's inspiring journey. If you were moved by their story of love and purpose, please leave a final comment below and subscribe to Narratives and Memories. Check out the next story we have for you right here.